are you? Guten Tag. ¿Cómo está? Wagwan. I'm not going to cover all the languages. Anyway, I am on the road. I'm in Florida again. So back in May, I think it was May or June, possibly, I was contacted via email by this gentleman who wanted he wanted a tub to shower conversion. And he lived down in Jacksonville, Florida. And I think I had some type of communication with him as far as pricing and hotel stay, etc., etc. And he declined. So I guess in fast forward to October, November, he ended up getting it done. And it doesn't look bad. I mean, the pictures he sent me doesn't look too bad. But he said he wasn't happy with it. He said there was a lot of lippage and there were some things wrong. And I'm kind of curious as to what is possibly wrong. I'm also curious how the thing was built. I often go on jobs where the shower is a year, 2, 5 years, 10 years down the road, and I'm able to do kind of a forensic study, a dissection, to find out what happened, why it went wrong. I don't think this shower has failed. I think this aesthetically, he's not happy with the end result. But he's asking me to tear out the whole shower and start over again. Okay, so this is what we have going on here. And as I told you already in the pictures, this doesn't look half bad. Except for the border. I don't like how it's bottomed out here on the niche. But, you know, overall, at first glance, you're like, oh, okay, there's nothing wrong with that shower. It's functional. It does what it's supposed to do. And what is the point of tearing it all out? And that's why I was called down here. Like, this guy wants to start from scratch, like take all this material, throw it away, and put up new material. Same exact material, except for the floor tile. That river rock is gonna go. And then we're gonna do a 2x2 on a matte tile. He's concerned about the large variance of spacing between the rocks. In fact, he had mentioned to me that he had wished the guy had filled in these larger areas, but then I pointed out these larger areas are kind of everywhere. I mean, that's the whole point of having this type of river rock shaved tile. And it's better that it's shaved anyway, at least. I don't like the real rock ones. But, you know, the guy did the best he could on, you know, what he had, what skills he had anyway. And it's not a bad shower. And this was only done a couple months ago. Then I looked for all these little tiny nuances that let me know if this guy could build a shower or not, or if he was just, you know, a halfway decent tile guy. So a couple of things here. One, there's no 45 cut. This kind of looks shabby. It looks like it's passable. I mean, it's functional. It does what it's supposed to do. It trims out. But if you look on here, there's a little discrepancy. Like, these aren't lined up. Like, this is literally a sharp edge right here. Not lined up on top of here either. It's hard to see through a camera, but it's not lined up. It's not flush, in other words. And so when I do these, when I'm going to call it by default a Schluter trim, but a lot of companies make this trim, I do a 45 cut, and I try the best I can for all 4 sides of my 45s to match up to each other and to the outside tile as much as I can. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, but you know, it is what it is. And you know, like, it's not bad. He did proper slope, you know, for the water to run off here. He did a proper slope on the curb for the water to run off. You know, I look at all these things combined. The problem I have with the curb, so curbs are generally 5.5 inches wide. By the time you put your backer board on and the tile and all that stuff, you're at 5.5 inches. These curb tops, or sill tops as they're called at different tile stores, these sill tops are 6 inches. So you have a 1/2 inch overhang, and I usually have my 1/2 inch overhang on the inside, so that when water flows off, it comes right down the overhang. It doesn't hit the back tile. Some people like it flush, and if I know that in advance, then I can build out my curb a little wider, another 1/2 inch, and I can make this curb top very flush with the inside and the outside. In this case, he split the difference. So you got a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here, and that 1/4 inch shows right at the end. Instead of being flush with the wall, it shows, and it shows over here. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, he hasn't built a shower.
there's a lot of things that he didn't know. He set this floor tile after the fact. So all the wall tile is buried inside of the pan somewhere, and when I take all this stuff out, I'll see how far. I can already tell it's probably at least an inch into the pan. So the floor tile should have been set first. That would have hidden some of these larger areas because your floor tile, or sorry, your wall tile would have been out to here. So, but you wouldn't know that unless you set this, you know, many times in a shower. The drain is a little cockeyed. I can tell if I put a level on it, it's kind of going in that direction a little bit, and I'm not sure why. And I don't know that I'll be able to rectify that. This is a concrete slab, by the way. This is Florida, so this is a concrete slab. So that he was even able to get the drain center from what this was, a bathtub originally, you know, pretty good. I don't know what it took to get there, but, you know, not bad. A couple other things as far as like what I was talking about with the Schluter trim. Look it up here. So he went, you know, again, a 45 cut isn't mandatory up there, but come on, you know, bring this up and cut that off and then have this overlap, or, you know, one direction or the other. 45 would have been easier to make that happen, but, you know, it is what it is. See, you did it here. If you did it there, how come you missed the other side? Small potatoes, really? That's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. Setting the floor tile after the fact is not a big deal, but it lets me know what this guy, what experience he had in setting tile. And again, I'm not, there's not a lot of lippage on the tile. This tile is a lower end, they call it a porcelain, but I don't call it a porcelain, I just call it a high-end ceramic is what I call it. It has a rounded edge on it. Here's some lippage right here. But it has a rounded edge on it, and this is about $1.63, $1.64 a square foot, whereas a good rectified porcelain that has a square edge on it instead of a rounded edge is going to cost you about $1 more a square foot. So it matters because as I look around here, I'm going to see if I can find one. As I look around here, this tile, it's kind of flush up here. You see where it's flush right there? So those two tile kind of match up, but when you come down here, they don't match up. It's off by almost 1/8 of an inch, at least a 1/16 or better. And you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. But you're dealing with 1/8 inch spacing. So that little 1/16 of an inch, and this is 7 tile up, by the time you get to the second or third row, now you're 1/4 inch off from this tile being the way it's supposed to be, which is every tile matches every tile, and you won't get that unless it's a square rectified tile. This rounded edge tile is just kind of the low end of porcelain, and so, you know, I don't blame him a lot for having some of these lippage issues. There's another one. The lippage issues could have been mitigated a little bit by using leveling clips, and I know he didn't use any because the customer told me that he didn't use any. And this tile has a slight bow in it, and when these, I saw one on the floor earlier. So yeah, so if you see here, these two tile match up as these two, and these two match up, and there's no lippage going on. But see, in this corner here, there's a bow, and so this tile is bowed down, and that tile is not. And so when you're dealing with bowed tile like that, you can't overcome that, even with leveling clips sometimes, especially on the edge of a bow. I don't know if this shows up on camera. This tile is bowed in at an angle toward that direction. It doesn't line up. As I run my hand across this, I'm going to show on camera the best I can. That one's horrible. So you got a lot of areas here that are horribly done. I don't think there's anything flush on this mosaic. This one's bumped in a lot. This one, wow, that's really bad. This one is bowed, like it goes in that way, and there's the lippage here. You know, again, small potatoes. These are all little tiny small russet potatoes, but I'm feeling it everywhere. There's, you know, this one's cockeyed, and there's some that's broke, and that's what my customer pointed out to me, that there's a cracked one here and there's a cracked one here, and honestly some of these, and there's a cracked one here, and some of these mosaic mats come with pieces that are cracked prior to you even taking them out of the package. But the proper thing to do when you have a chipped one or a cracked one like this is to pull it off of the mat and replace it with one that's not cracked. So these cracks, do they matter a lot? No. Does this unevenness, do I have a straight edge? I don't have a straight edge of nothing. Because I could show you where if I put a straight edge in here, it would kind of rock because they're sticking out and it's really hard to see on camera. When I tear this out, I'm really curious on what the prep looks like, because the prep matters more than what the overall look of the tile and how it was set, and all the little tiny things that I pointed out almost doesn't matter as much as what the prep was. I know he didn't build a shower before. Why? Why do you think I know he hasn't built a shower? Okay, so let me back up. If I went straight to here, which I'm gonna do right now, I already know he didn't build a shower because he did all this work, this tile work. I don't know if he did the plumbing work, but it doesn't really matter. Once he started doing the tile work, he should have known what he doesn't know. Let me show you something, which I told my customer already. This is called a mud guard. This mud guard comes in the box with the plumbing. Comes in the box, and it is specifically designed to be your parameter. So the outside edge of this mud guard, which is let me show you. I can show you. The outside edge of this mud guard is where your finished tile should be. Sorry. That's the parameter of your finished tile. That's the least that you can go with your finished wall, and where my thumb is the most you can go with your finished wall. So you have a good part of an inch of playroom, which it shows right here. The finished wall, the stem, should be outside of the wall. So you have not just the stem, but you have this girth of the valve itself sticking outside of the wall. In this case, all you have is a stem. You don't have any of the valve showing whatsoever. So the escutcheon and all the pretty stuff that goes on afterwards will never fit. It will never fit. Because he didn't use the mud guard, he threw it out. We don't see it in the box anywhere, so he threw it out. I just happened to collect these over time. I think this is a Delta, and it should fit on there perfectly when I take all this stuff out. And I will use this as my mud guard, as I have, as you can see, many other times. I will use this as my mud guard to know the outside parameter. So my wall board will probably go up to about here, and then my tile will finish out, you know, to where I'm on the outside edge of that mud guard. So that's how I knew. People who build showers already know the purpose of the mud guard. It's not to go in the garbage until the last day when you put the pretty stuff up. Because we're going to get into how he built this and find out if his prep was on point or not. Alright, as I was taking off the curb material, the tile proper, I've noticed that he kind of spot bonded all of his tile on there. You can see clearly there's Durarock on here. And the Durarock should be encompassed with thin set all over the place. So the thin set should have been kind of keyed in, as it were, kind of spread out over the entirety of this backer board. Then the tile back buttered and the two bond together. This is odd too. There's probably a good part of an inch gap down here at the bottom. Right there, an inch gap. So why the backer board didn't push up against the wall, I don't know. Which is strange. But even stranger, I wasn't able to save the curb top. I was going to try to do that, but these are travertine and they're very soft stone, and I didn't really anticipate I would be able to save it, but I was trying. And had he done the same thing here that he did on the curb, I would have been able to save the curb top. However, this is very interesting, and I'm not going to say anything for just a minute. I'm going to let you kind of fester on this for a moment. Look at that. Look how the shower pan liner print just came off and onto the thin set. But I'm not going to say anything for about 10 seconds and let people guess what is even stranger than all that. See if you can guess. Okay, you give up? There's no backer board. Like literally there's backer board on the front and there's backer board on the back. Yeah, there's no backer board. There's no backer board on the top. Like literally he's got to build up a thin set from the back to the front to get his slope. A build up a thin set is the only thing on the top of this pan liner. Huge no-no, something I've never seen before. Sometimes you see things you don't see before and you just scratch your bald head. Look at that, look at that. Look at that, just unbelievable. Wow. Who would, I'm not gonna go on. Uh-oh. Here we go. All right. So I've got a couple of, maybe, half a dozen screws. There's 1, 2, 3, and on this side there's probably 3 screws too. So he used screws on the outside, and he used pressure treated wood. Guys, please don't use pressure treated wood. I'm gonna go out on a limb. He didn't even wrap his curb. You know, there's no reason why your pan liner doesn't cost a whole lot. There's no reason why you can't wrap the whole thing, which is kind of here nor there. But you know, like, why not? Why not wrap your curb? This is still has the chemicals coming out of it. I can feel the chemicals. So with pressure treated wood, if it's not secured well, it's going to start warping and twisting. And when that warping and twisting happens, had he put his shower doors on, which thank God he didn't, the shower doors potentially, especially if they're anchored from the bottom, could shatter because there's enough movement going on here. Yeah. And then worst case, that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is he would have a cracked curb, or he would have cracked grout lines on the end, or you know, like, ooh, look at that. He would have, yeah, he would have issues. Don't use pressure treated. Do not use pressure treated wood for your curb. When I take things apart, that's how I find out some of the surprises that I never anticipate. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of, there are some things that you never see and you never, so at first I'm taking out this mosaic and I'm thinking, oh, okay, my bad, I kind of ragged this guy out. He used some type of waterproofing because as the mosaic dropped off, which wasn't adhered well anyway, but as it dropped off, you can see clearly that there's nothing on there thin set wise. In fact, that looks like mastic. So as I'm taking this stuff off, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, okay, well, he waterproofed something. I've never seen this waterproofing before. And then I thought it was dent shield, like, but that's gray and this is kind of a greenish. And then I started turning it over and lo and behold, do you have any idea what this is? This is linoleum. This is linoleum that goes on a floor. This is vinyl, what they used to call vinyl flooring. What the heck? What is really going on? I have no idea. Who would ever think in my wildest, ooh, he used Aqua Defense. But he only used it on the outside. He didn't use, well, we'll see when we get into it. But he did use some Aqua Defense. But nothing there. So, in case you guys have never followed my channel before, let me tell you that all your damage from a shower happens from about 4 or 5 inches up down. Any damage that you have, any leak that you have, any issues that you have ever in your lifetime that you're in your house will always be 4 or 5 inches down. Never up this way. Never, never, never have I gone on a shower that's falling apart because it wasn't waterproofed. So, he did waterproof something here, but he didn't waterproof the most important part, which is the curb material and the pan material. Because if he didn't, yeah, he didn't. So then why did he here? I don't know. Linoleum in a shower. Whew, never seen that. This is interesting as I'm getting into this tear out. And a lot of guys out there already know what's going on. Whew, I'm going to take my mask off so I'm a little more clear. Where do I start? Where do I start without rambling? This is Aqua Defense. It goes on like an aqua color and it dries a dark green, which is what I saw here on the end. Aqua Defense is $50 a gallon, same as RedGuard or any other product thereabouts. And so he used it sparingly, only where the backer board met backer board, and he used mesh tape. So basically what you're doing is taking thin set and you're filling in that crack first. Then if you want to put tape over it, then put tape over it and then put your waterproofer over it. But he didn't bother doing that. So despite the fact that there's tape here, you can see the movement Another reason I don't like Durock, because it bends. Look at that. Between the studs, it bends. Yeah, so he should have filled in that crack with some thin set, and then if he wanted to, put tape on it. But anyway, the point being is, where's the rest of the Aqua Defense? Why only here? Is that the only place you're going to have a problem with water? No. If you're going to have a problem with water, it's going to be throughout. Although I'll back up and say what I said before about walls never being an issue. And neither are corners normally. But if you're going to do a corner, come on, do it right. Look at that. Big old giant gap in there. You didn't do anything. I mean, literally, you didn't do anything. Water can still get back there if it wanted to. Just stupid. Here's another stupid. You know what this is called? This is called spot bonding. The only good thing about spot bonding, only one thing good about spot bonding, I save a bunch of tile. So already I've got about $35 worth of tile that I'm able to save. Spot bonding, never a good idea. In fact, I can't even call this spot bonding. It's like, let's just throw some up on the edge here. Let's just, looks like a finger here. It's like, throw a big glob up here and kind of finger. I don't know what that's called. I have no idea. It's yeah, very weird. But you see, none of that stuff did any good. The only place this tile was on the wall is where these little gritty areas are at. I've been unsuccessful at chiseling all that stuff off. I can scrape all that off and save a bunch of this tile. Spot bonding, never, never, never a good idea. Unless you plan on reusing your tile, as we're doing here. Holy crap. Problem about not having a cameraman. See how easy that was to take off? Pristine tile. No chips, no cracks. Another one saved. Look, I'm going to save this one. I'm going to pull this off with my... No, I'm not. Almost. Holy crap. Yeah. Save that one too. Half cut. Saved. Watch this. I think the grout is helping it stay in place. There it comes. That's what spot bonding does for you. Nothing. Guys, come on. Don't. If you're starting out on tile, if you're DIY, I don't care who you are, get away from that. Get away from this. This is the most ridiculous, insane application of tile that I see on occasion. Ooh, got a little tiny chip there. Oops. Anyway, so the reason I do this, my customers already bought enough tile to completely redo the whole thing. But if I can save some tile and save a few dollars for them, then I'm happy to do so. Just insanity that all this tile can come up so easily. Look at that. Look what he did. He stuck his tile directly onto his floor pan material and did the floor tile after the fact. Another silly thing, like, who does that? A lot of people that don't do showers do that. Oh, another thing. This is barely on. I don't know what to call this bonding. Looks like a McDonald's. I don't know what to call this. If any of you guys have, there's another M. If any of you guys have an idea of a funny way to explain this type of bonding, finger painting bonding or something, I don't know. But it's anything but bonding. It's just bizarre. I've never seen that. Never, never, never. Shower's gone. Probably by the time everything was said and done, about an hour. Take all this stuff out. Yay, gone. Another pressure treated piece right there where the niche was. Well, first of all, let me get back to the curb. So the top part of the curb, this is the bottom part, and he used concrete nails, which are okay, but he could have just easily used a bang gun. Concrete nails are okay, whatever. That's the bottom part here. The middle part was put in with 5 screws. 5 screws to hold in pressure treated. It should have been like 2, 4. It wasn't even toe-nailed into the sides there, which he should have done to anchor the curb. Part of it anyway, but yeah, this would allow for a lot more warping of this wood. You know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 screws or nails would have been more appropriate. And there's no scabbing. Another reason I can tell he hasn't built a shower, because there's no 2x6 scabbing around there, which, yeah. Well, the shower is officially in the bag. I mean, it's not in the bag done, it's like literally in the bag. I can already tell, just my eye can just tell that it's sloped off to the left quite a bit. Yeah, so that's level. It's probably half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, about half an inch off. And that's not a really big deal. The way he ended up doing the pan, water would have drained regardless, but you know, you're going to go through all that trouble. Trouble meaning he had to literally go through the concrete here, which I already knew. The homeowner told me he went through the concrete, dug all the drain out. I don't know how he did the drain. That's kind of freaking me out a little bit, because at some point it had to be a transition from 1.5 to 2 inch, and I don't know where the transition was made or if it was glued well or whatever. I can't do anything about that now. I'm hoping that I can actually reuse what he's done here. And I don't mean the drain setup, because I'll have my own locking flange and bolts and all that stuff that I bought. But I'm just curious. Oh, good for him. So he didn't do his circle. He did a little, I can see the 4 flaps in here. So the 4 flaps of the pan liner are exactly how I do. So I cut an X, and when I do that X and I put my locking flange down, it pushes the flaps of the drain where I cut in a downward position. I just like that a whole lot better. It makes more sense to me. With his X really didn't have to be that wide. But I can tell already that there's no caulking up under there, which is not a big deal. That's only a big deal if your drain never backs up. So I think he did good. I think he went down 8 inches and did his little 90 and came over and did another 90 down to where the P-trap is. So yay. Yay on that. I got the curb nice and built. I got the 30-inch niche all built and ready to go. All my blocking is fashioned, and that's ready for the pan liner now. And I'm ready to mix up the mortar. And the pan is poured, and then frontward to backward, it is right on. Everything is prepped and ready to go. Wallboard is up. It's all mudded, it's sanded, it's flat, and curb is buttered. The drain is caulked around the edge. And next is a red guard. And it's done. That quick. Actually, really not that quick, couple hours. Floor tile is set. Curb, wall tile, niche. Basically, we're almost done. So it is a week later, and I am finally finished with the shower. It is rebuilt the way my customer wanted it done. If you remember on the first part of the video, there were a lot of little minor things that were going on. One of them was that the curb was outside on both ends, and it was outside of the wall material, or the floor material as it were, here. Not the floor material, but the curb material here. And so now it's flush. I knew it was a 6-inch curb, so I built my curb in such a way that it would fit on there afterward. We went back with a 2x2 tile instead of the shaved rock that he had before. That was his choice. The trim is now 45 at the top, the way that it should be. 45 over there, and 45 on the niche, because that was another issue, if you remember the first part of the video. The other part was that this border wasn't flush, and now this border is flush. When you rub your hand across it, you're not feeling any bumps. You know, there's some of this is glass right here, this piece, and some of it's bent, and it's the nature of the beast with this type of mosaic. In fact, I ran across a lot of these that were bent. So, you know, I did the best I could with what I had to work with, but it is flush, straight up and down. Also, the tile is flush. There's no more, I don't know if you can see that. There's no more lippage going on any of the walls. Over here, over there, anywhere, there's nothing, there's no lippage going on. And because you saw that I use a leveling system, it made it much easier to get a no lippage, or lippage free as it were, situation going on. We had the trim kit put on finally. He's never had that put on yet because he stopped the job. There were a couple of other minor issues that were, oh, and the drain was tilted this way, so that got straightened out as you saw previously. There have been a lot of improvements aesthetically. Internally, there was a lot, as you saw already. There was a lot of things going on. And one of the things I didn't mention is that I know there's going to be a panel of glass and a door here. There was no studding. I think the stud set over here. There was one that encompassed part of the curb. I think it was either the outside or the inside. So I shored that up and made sure that there was another stud over here. Internally, there was a lot of mistakes and I don't want to enumerate all the mistakes because there were far too many. So yeah, he's never built a shower before. And anybody who watches my channel for any length of time knows that I don't put myself out there to pat myself on the back, giving my props to myself and saying, good job, and, showing my expertise at how to set tile. I think it's more imperative that people know what they don't know to begin with. I think that matters. Some of these things that I mentioned earlier, even with the pattern of the tile, making sure that your arrows that are on the back of most tile match up the best you can, so that you're not see the patterns that kind of flow and everything. My customer, I don't want them to micromanage me, but I don't mind if they question me, hey, why are you doing this? Or why, engage in a conversation with your contractor to kind of find out why it is he's doing things a certain way. And then if you have to, correct them, making sure, hey, do you mind putting up some blocking back there? Do you mind straightening out the drain? Do you mind using the back buttering the way that it's supposed to and trowel out your thin set on your walls the way I see it all the time that's done? That's kind of what I'm pushing at with my channel over and over and over again every time I go on one of these. And the main reason I do that is to educate the consumer so that they're aware. They're not necessarily hiring me. They could be hiring anybody or doing it themselves, but they should be made aware of all the build process. And that's what I want you to walk away with, the information that I provide when I do tear outs and I show the mistakes that are made. I think it's inherently more important to know these things that are behind the scenes rather than what's taking place here. And I feel a certain way about interviewing a customer. I've seen it done, some other people have done it before, interviewing a customer after the fact and, again, kind of banging your own drum. I don't really like necessarily doing that. I don't think it serves a purpose to have somebody that has hired you to then rave about what a great job you did and all that stuff. Having said that, my current customer that I'm complete with now has volunteered to be interviewed. Kind of a first-hand knowledge account of what happened here and what went wrong and why it went wrong and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and interview him for a few minutes. So standing in front of me is Mr. Reed, the homeowner, and what is a situation that you encountered? If you could go kind of backwards in time and kind of explain what had happened from the very onset. I think this was a tub to shower conversion. Is that right?
Yes, it was, Bob. A couple months ago, I had a company to come in to do that tub to shower conversion, and through watching your videos, I spotted several problems with the bathroom. A lot of basically crooked tile, broken mosaic, but luckily through Facebook and some of the other YouTubes, I was able to find you, contact you, and you come down and get my bathroom how it is today.
Right. So the minor things that you were talking about that were done, what were they specifically that you had the issue with?
Some of my specific problems was the floor was uneven, and I had huge grout spots in the floor. I had a lot of leakage on the tile, and like I stated before, the mosaic. I have a lot of broken pieces in the mosaic.
Okay. So that was kind of a heads up. Was that your only heads up that he really didn't know what he was doing?
That was some of the main things I noticed.
Okay. And so, how did you end up finding me eventually?
Just doing my research, and I saw you on YouTube.
Right. And so did you? I mean, I'm just kind of curious, like how people end up finding me. What did you just Google, or did you just look up bad bathroom job, or what?
That's exactly what I did.
Okay.
I Googled bad bathroom jobs, and your name was one of the first that come up.
Always
And I
on the
watched-
top, yeah.
I watched probably 20 to 30 of the videos.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, you have another 380 to go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, and that's what I was getting at earlier before you stepped in the room, was that I'm putting this information out there as a heads up to people so that they know what they don't know going forward. And I wish you had watched my videos prior to the build.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I was there with them also.
Right. And so, just out of curiosity, I get a lot of emails and people texting or whatever asking me, how do I find a reliable contractor? How did you find this guy that did this work?
Basically, from a friend.
Okay.
And my particular friend had a decent job, but I did find him through a friend.
Okay. So that was just kind of a referral thing. You hadn't seen any of his work at that point.
No, I hadn't.
Right.
I hadn't.
And you wouldn't know what to look for anyway if you'd seen his work, because overall, when you sent me the pictures, I think it was back in the spring or summer of last year, when you sent me the pictures, overall, I'm like, I don't see the issues here. So that the surface stuff mattered to you. You wouldn't have known if you had seen pictures of his work whether or not he was somebody that could handle your shower, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have had a clue. If he would have just did some of the simplest things on the job, I would have not known. But we had even bigger problems once you got behind the tile.
Right. But bigger problems, definitely. But even to the point, things that I pointed out to you on the surface level with patterns not matching up, you know, where they're repetitive and stuff like that. So that little things like that. But then you became more knowledgeable after things got torn out.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that I documented on my video about what he did wrong internally. You know, forget externally. So I'm not glad that I had to redo your shower, but I'm glad that things didn't fail from within. That you could have easily bypassed these minor things on the outside and then had bigger problems going forward.
Yes, indeed. I'm glad I called it when I did.
Yeah. And so what would you suggest to somebody out there that's contemplating perhaps getting a shower built in the future? What would you suggest that they do?
Well, I would suggest that they definitely do their homework, check with the Better Business Bureau, watch a lot of your videos online, and actually go out to some of the jobs that the company has done, and just really do your homework.
I understand that you are a retired firefighter.
Yes, retired, coming up on 4 years, 25 years with the Jacksonville Fire Department.
And when did you join?
November 19th, 1991, I'm sorry.
1991. You remember the month.
Oh, yes, I do.
So you spent 25 years as a fireman.
25 years, 25 quick years.
Wow.
Yes, indeed.
Wow. And you've been retired how long?
July 1st will be 4 years.
And how old are you?
I left at, 47 when I left. I'm 51 now.
Wow.
Yes, indeed.
You got another 20, 30 years of doing nothing, huh?
But enjoying this back.
Exactly. There we
Yes,
go.
indeed.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Reed. I appreciate you coming on camera. A lot of people would hesitate doing that, but you know, I want the information to be out there from firsthand. And, you know, I put out videos a lot, speaking for myself, so I think it's imperative that people hear, you know, a third party, as it were, to kind of, you know, warn them to look out for all of this stuff, you know, before it gets bad, that, you know, you have to call me, because I didn't really want to come down here. I mean, I appreciate the work for sure, but I didn't want to have to take out all the material and throw it away and have to do it twice. So, you know, I do feel for you on that, but I'm glad I could help out.
Well, Mr. Bond, I'm glad you came down. You did a beautiful job, and I am 100% satisfied with the job. And I thank you.
All right, I appreciate
All
it.
right, I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video and you learned something, consider being a Patreon member. $5, $10, $15 a month would help me greatly produce more videos. I make nothing from YouTube at all. If you're gonna call me for advice, please donate $50 for 30 minutes. My link to my PayPal and my Patreon account is down below. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get immediate notifications as soon as I post videos. And thank you very much for your support.